Hello everyone and welcome to an incredible game from round 7 of the 23rd European Team Championship. So many of you guys have already requested it and for very good reasons. It's Alireza Firouzja versus the master of the Mystic Arts, Baadur Jobava, who on a bad day, plays incredible chess. On a good day, he just, creates masterpieces, whenever he touches chess pieces. So it's a very exciting match and, when Jobava is playing, the game is never a boring one. So without further ado, let's check it out. There's quite a lot to enjoy. Alireza with the white pieces opens with e4, and the very interesting thing about the match is that of course it's France versus Georgia, that the other three boards have already drawn their game very early on. So this game is not only about who will win between the two of them, but also who wins this game wins the match for their team. So something else to add. We have c6. Jobava goes for the Caro-Kann defense, d4, d5, and now e5, advancing the pawn. We have bishop to f5, and now knight to f3. So the advanced variation, short line of the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. We have e6, and now bishop to e2. We have knight to e7, and here Alireza just castles, and now h6. So preparing to bring the bishop back to h7, so you can shift this knight to f5. Or usually if white develops the bishop to d3, then you don't care. If white trades, you're gonna have an excellent outpost for your knight on f5. We have knight b to d2, and now knight to d7. So black still waiting with this c5 maneuver. So knight to b3. For the moment, Alireza controls that c5 square and the bishop back to h7. Jobava frees up the f5 square for the knight. We have a4, a very nice expansion on the queen side. Also a5, a6 might be an idea in the future. So black plays a6, and now bishop to d2. So still waiting to decide what will happen in the center. The black king is still in the center of the board, whether we're going to have a c5 or something else remains to be seen, but it's a Caro-Kann, so we should be expecting a move like c5. And here, knight to g6 is a move that's usually played here, but here we have queen to c7, a very rare move, which Alireza counters with rook to c1. Makes sense. You want to develop the rook. The queen is on c7, so why not? If the c file opens up, that should be good for us. And now there are a couple of games where knight to c8 was played, but here we have rook to d8 by Jobava, and it is now only as of move 11 that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Alireza continues here. So as he played rook to c1, one might expect c4 here, but he decides to go for bishop to a5, attacks the queen and the rook, and you have to play b6 here. Knight to b6 just looks weird. That knight is never, getting out of there. You will not be able to unpin. So b6, bishop back to b4, and now even a5. Further chasing the bishop. Also interesting is maybe just knight to f5, because bishop to d6 is the idea here. So you could maybe play something like knight to f5, offer a trade here, but this is also fine for white. For example, bishop captures, knight captures, and we capture on a6. We win a pawn, and we have a very nice position. So you have to be careful not to blunder that a6 pawn. So a5, also one of the reasons why Jobava decided to push it. We have bishop to d6 now, attacking the queen. Queen to b7, and now continuing development with queen to d2. We have knight to c8, now trying to chase away the bishop, and Alireza just captures. We have bishop captures on f8, knight captures, and now knight to e1. As, of course, you are expecting c5, we have to strengthen our center with a move like f4, but also it might also be possible to push that pawn even further if the black king decides to remain in the center of the board. And here we have knight to e7. You could also try something like knight to d7, try and undermine this pawn. For example, we're going to play c5, undermine the center, and then this pawn maybe becomes weak. Then maybe something like f4, and then if castles, it's a very interesting position, but maybe white could even start attacking with a move like g4. So Jobava tries something else. He goes for knight to e7, and now we have knight to d3, still with very nice control of the c5 square, and knight to d7 now. We have knight to f4 by Alireza, so the f4 pawn remains on f2 for the moment. We have castles, and now we have rook f to e1. So it doesn't seem like the f pawn will be pushed all the way to f4. We have rook to c8, still waiting with c5. Now Jobava wants to play rook to c7, bring the other rook over to c8, and only then execute c5. We have c3, strengthening the center here, and rook to c7, continuing with this plan. But now Alireza could, play a variety of moves here. He decides to go for the absolute sharpest line, and that is g4. It's hard to say if this is even a line, if this is even good, but it allows a white for some very, very dynamic play. So how do you continue here? Well, the thing is, if you just continue rook f to c8, we can play g5. This is our main goal, and for example, h captures, knight h5, we're attacking the g5 pawn. We're going to have a lot of pressure on black's king side, so white will enjoy this position very much. So instead, after g4, we have queen to b8 by Jobava, and this means that, well, just pushing g5 now might not be all that impressive. If we push g5 now, we could actually capture here, and after knight h5, even play f6. Point is, after, let's say, pawn captures, we're going to play knight captures, queen captures on g5. There's knight captures on g5, and after bishop captures, there's this rook to f5, very annoying move, attacking the queen. The queen has to keep an eye on the bishop. Then our queen can come to f8, so that's why the queen to b8 is annoying against this g5 line. So instead, after this queen to b8 move, Alireza plays queen to e3, and now we have queen to d8. So just preparing to bring the queen closer to the king's side. Also interesting was maybe a move like b5, but it's so hard to decide to play such a move. All the action is on the king's side, and to play something like this is like saying, yeah, nothing is happening on the king's side. Let's just put some pressure here. You pressure this pawn, and if a captures, you're gonna play a4, attack the knight, and after the knight moves, you can play c captures on b5, saying that you don't really have anything on the king's side. But it's hard to play chess like that. Queen to d8 is played, and now we have h3. h4 probably also a possibility, but Alireza does not want to overpush anything. We have king to h8, getting the king to a little bit of a safer square, and now knight to d2. Now the knight can come, for example, maybe to f3, maybe to h4, maybe to g5 in the future. All depends on what black plays. And finally, we have c5. So now black decides to play on the queen side, or rather, against the white's strong center. We have bishop to b5, as the square has now been freed up, and now knight to c6. We have king to h2. Alireza also improves the position of his king, and now we have c captures on d4. So this is maybe too early of a trade in the center, maybe something like queen to e7 followed by rook f to c8, doubling up on the c file, preparing this, and then maybe we'd have more pressure on the c file, so maybe it's no rush capturing on d4. But he goes for it. We have c captures on d4, c captures, and now knight to b4. Now offering a trade of rooks, which Alireza goes for. We have rook captures, queen captures, and now queen to c3. He offers a queen trade, but it's one that black's not too eager to accept, because if this is traded, where do you put the knight? For example, you could play knight to c2, attack the rook, because our knight on d7 is hanging, so you have to play everything with tempo, and after some like rook to d1, we're going to play knight to b8, and then, for example, knight b1, taking away the a3 square from this knight here. It's a difficult position at best for black. So Jobava tries something else. He doubles up on the c file, and Alireza also doubles up on the c file. But now trading is no longer an option, because we really needed that rook to be on e1 for this to work. If you trade now, we just trade everything, just captures, and now you will lose one of the knights. There's no playing this. So instead, after rook to c1, we have the only move that black has in the position that doesn't put him in a really bad spot, and that is bishop to c2. If there's nothing else, you will find such a move, and this is what Jobava plays. And now you're just threatening queen captures on c3. So while you could trade with queen captures on c7, Alireza decides, no, there's no reason to trade. Let's play queen g3. We still want to push g5, attack on the king side, and for the moment you can't move your bishop. The queen is on c7. So here we have queen back to d8. And another interesting position where Black probably could have played a little bit better, is that, well, I'm just going to show you why. Knight to f8 is the move you have to play, because now after g5, h captures, and g5 and queen captures, you can play queen to d8 now, and now you offer a queen trade. And of course, after white declines this, you can play king to g8, and after rook to g1, you can play bishop to f5, and there's no breaking through this. If you try something like knight f3 to bring another attacker into the game, just rook c2, and black is perfectly fine here. No danger here whatsoever. However, after the move in the game, queen to d8, it seems like it's the same, even better, because we guard the g5 square right away. It does allow Alireza a very, very tricky maneuver, and that's just removing the queen from the defense of the g5 square. So here we have bishop captures on d7, as you might have expected, queen captures on d7, and now g5. So now we are breaking through, and the situation on the clock is very interesting. It's some 18 minutes for both of them. It's move 34. They still have to make 6 more moves to reach time control. So here, h captures on g5. We have queen captures, and now queen to d8. This is a must play move, because if you play anything else here, for example, knight to d3, let's play any move just to show you the threat, rook to g1, and there's no defending the position. Now whatever you play, let's say rook g8, you're gonna get checkmated. So it's a very, very tricky position. So queen to d8 has to be played. You do not want to give Alireza any free moves with the queen. So now we're offering a queen trade, and we have queen to h5 with check. We have king to g8, and now Alireza has to figure out how to go about this, because he's well, it's still not very easy, and the time is running low. So here we have knight to f3. Of course, we want to play knight g5 and then put some pressure on black's position. And here g6. This is the absolute best defense for black, and it's one that's not easily circumvented. So here we have rook to g1. Alireza spent a lot of time on this move. He spent some 7 minutes, which is a lot since he had like 14. But there was there was some talk of queen to h6, because we really want to play knight to g5 here. We can't play knight to g5 because our queen would be hanging. So that's why Alireza played rook to g1 first to pin the g pawn, but queen h6 is also very interesting. Then we have to play queen f8, queen back to h4, and now we are again preparing this knight to g5. Of course, rook also is coming to g1, but now if queen to d8 offering another trade, now queen g5, knight g5 is just winning. So black would really have to figure out something else here, probably queen to g7, but it's very similar to what happened in the actual game. So in the game, rook to g1 was played. Now comes knight to c6, and it's interesting, this is move 38, so Jobava played this very quickly. Alireza was extremely low on time, but to play this to absolute perfection with black, you have to play king to f8. But maybe if he invested a little bit more time, he would have found it, but he thought that maybe it'd be best to just play really quickly. Alireza was low on time. But the point is, after this move, for example, if we play something like queen to h7, we're going to play king to e8. And now after queen to g8, check king to e7, we can play queen to g7, and after queen to h8, offering a trade, we can play this knight captures on g6 maneuver, because the f-pawn is pinned. For example, bishop captures on g6, we can play rook captures on g6, and now let's say the queens get traded off. Yes, you are down a pawn, but your position is very much playable. It's very unlikely that white will be able to win this. So that's the way to go. However, he tried playing against Alireza's time, so he played knight to c6, but now Alireza has to find how to continue this game. He played queen to h6. This is not an easy decision to make, because knight captures on g6 just looks so good that it must be winning, but it's not. I'm going to show you why it's not. The problem with knight captures on g6, f captures, rook captures with check, bishop captures, queen captures on g6 with check. Of course, you can't go to f8. If you go to f8, then knight to g5 is just winning. Checkmate is being threatened, and if you prevent this knight captures on e6 check, black has no moves. You have to give up the queen. But still, you could play king to h8, and now knight to g5 doesn't really do all that much. Rook to c7 prevents checkmate, and after queen h6 check, king g8, queen captures on e6 check, king to f8, and there's no way for white to finish the attack. You're gonna have to settle for some sort of a perpetual with repetition of queen h6, queen to e6. So this is best for Jobava, but not for Jobava. This would be best, but not for more than a draw. So here, queen to h6. Of course, you want to keep all of your options open, and well, one more move to time control, so nothing to worry about. We have queen to f8, offering a queen trade, and now queen to h4. Alireza played this with like 20 seconds on the clock, so of course, he timed it perfectly. He wanted to check all of his options, and then he played it, and now he was awarded additional time, so we don't have to rush anymore. We have queen to g7, and now comes a move that, well, Alireza had to check before playing, but of course, everything is on the G file, knight to h5. So we're really going after that f6 square. And here, what do you play? Well, queen to h8 is a move you have to play. Again, really, really complicated position, because now after knight to f6 check, we can play king to g7. And now after queen to g5, we can play bishop to f5. That's the point. And now after knight to g4, we start running away with the king. King to f8, king to e8, king to d7, and so on. So this is what black should go for. However, queen to h6 was played, and this allows Alireza to play a beautiful, beautiful maneuver. So feel free to pause the video and try to figure out the absolute best and only winning attempt for white while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this, well, brilliant idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to g4. That's the good stuff. Delivering check or trying something, for example, check king g7 doesn't really do anything. And if you try something like knight to g5, it looks very impressive, but there's queen captures on h5. That's the problem. Queen captures, g captures, and you don't have any reasonable discoveries here. You can grab one pawn, deliver a check from the rook. Once the king moves, that's it. You're done material. You're completely lost. However, the move that Alireza played, rook to g4, that's just such a spectacular move that really leaves black hopeless. The thing is, if, for example, just to give you an example, if you play something like bishop f5, attack this, weirdly place the rook on g4, now we play knight to f6 check, and after king to g7, we very happily trade queens. That's the point. King captures, and now comes rook to h4 check, and now you can see that the knight here covers all of this, and this was the idea. Rook to g4 to h4, and now we see a very quick win for white. Rook h7 check, king f8, rook h8 check, king to e7, and we pick up the rook here, and that's it. Or anything else. If king goes back, we still pick up the rook. Doesn't really matter. So that's the idea behind rook to g4. So in the game, Jobava played king to f8. It is the absolute most resilient defense. And now queen to f6, not allowing this captures because the queen here is hanging. And again, not a lot of moves here to play for black. So you could attempt queen captures on h5, but then rook to h4, and you have to give up the queen now because rook to h8 will be checkmate. Or you could try something like king back to g8, which is also a very interesting idea, but now comes knight to g5, and this is just incredible. Now the f7 pawn is hanging. We have to play something, let's say rook to f8, defending this. Now queen to f4, and again, it's such a difficult position to handle for black. You're going to have to go for this queen captures on h5 maneuver. Now rook h4, and you have to play something. You either give up the queen here, or you keep the queen with something like this, but then queen f6, and there's no defending checkmate. Now you have to give up the queen once again. So whatever black does, black will have to part with the queen at some point. But Jobava still tries to keep everything intact. We have knight to d8, adding a defender to the f7 pawn, also to the e6 pawn, and now comes rook to h4, just mounting the pressure little by little. We have king to g8, and now comes knight to g5. And look at this, all of these pieces in front of the black king. I mean, this is something you will see in a book, a €100 book about tactics. So that's what this looks to me like. And here again, the only way to play this is to give up the queen, but it's insufficient. If you play queen captures on h5, we're gonna play rook captures, g captures, but the problem is there's knight captures on f7, and black will have some compensation for the queen. For example, the rook is attacked, rook to c7, we can pick up the b6 pawn, but it's just not enough. This is gonna fall. We have a passed e pawn, black king is wide open. We're easily gonna win this. So instead, after knight to g5, Jobava played bishop to to d1, he said, all right, I might be interested in capturing this knight with the bishop, but now he gives Alireza a chance to finish this game with another brilliancy. So feel free to pause the video and try to spot this brilliancy while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this incredible idea. There are some other winning moves here. For example, like f3, we just prevent the bishop from attacking the knight, but that would be way slow playing this. But if you found the move Alireza played, then really congratulations. You are really, a true master of the dark arts. So here, queen captures on d8 was played. A check was delivered, and he was in this position on move 46 that Baadur Jobava resigned the game. As there is nothing more to be done here. So the thing is, now you are in check, you have to capture this or, block with the queen, but that also doesn't work. If you block with the queen, it's just a very nice knight to f6 check, king to g7, and rook to h7 checkmate. So that's not going to work. So we're going to have to capture the queen. And now it's, just knight f6 check, king g7. We're going to capture the queen here. But even that doesn't help. Just captures. We're going to deliver this check, fork the king and the rook. After the king moves, we're going to pick up the rook. And yes, you can pick up this pawn. Maybe say you have some counterplay, but not really. Knight captures here with check, king f7. We're going to play knight g5 check. And once the king moves, we're going to capture this pawn as well. And there is no playing this. Of course, we're up a piece. We have too much. We have too much in the position. So after this beautiful temporary queen sacrifice, Jobava resigned the game, and another brilliant victory for Alireza, who is now this close to 2800. He is interestingly, he is only 0.1 point behind the Ding on the live ratings list, but as the ratings don't have decimal spots, they're gonna round it up. He's gonna have the exact same rating as Ding, but FIDE says that as Ding played less games than Alireza this year, this would also mean that Alireza will be number 2, but that's only if he stops playing the tournament. Now there are still 2 more rounds in this tournament, so he's either gonna go up or down. We'll see. Will he be able to clinch that 2800 in this tournament, or will something else happen? But yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Not only did Alireza win this brilliancy, and he comes this close to reaching that 2800 barrier, becoming the youngest person ever to achieve this, but also he won the match for his team. So France defeated Georgia here, as like we said in the beginning. The other 3 boards drew their games very early on, and it was all about this board. Whoever wins the entire match. So there you have it. Wins the game, wins the match. This close to 2800. What will happen? We will see. 2 more rounds to go. Sorry about so many Alireza games, but I'm just very, very excited, about all of this happening. Aside from the World Chess Championship now, this, onslaught by the young gentleman here is very, very impressive. And, I intend to show, as much as he's intending to show. So yeah, once again, hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Zuza, and I would like to thank Micah Kennedy, Konstantinos Lampridis, Rod Hill, and Tudor Sharp for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this wonderful event, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.